Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Cahill and welcome to my little corner of the writing universe. In today's writing vlog, I am going to start my prep for CampNaNoWriMo in April, and I'm going to be doing this by outlining my project Abingdon 2 using Katytastic's 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter method. I'm very much looking forward to this. It is a brand new outlining method that I'm going to be using. Usually I use 60 scenes. I use a little bit of K.M. Whalen's 3-act method. I use some Save the Cat. So I'm really looking forward to trying this out and seeing if it is going to help me outline a story which does not quite have a proper plot. So let's go. Now, this method of outlining was developed by Katytastic. She divides everything into 3s. She has 3 acts. Within each act, there are 3 blocks. And within each block, there are 3 chapters. So it's sort of a version of the 3-act structure. I think where hers differs the most is that usually in a 3-act structure, you've got Act 1 and Act 3 both take up like 25% of the novel, and Act 2 is the longest at 50% of the novel. Katytastic's is more equal. Each act is the same in length, but how she's organized all of the blocks and chapters within it, all of the standard beats like the inciting incident, midpoint, darkest night of the soul, as you would call it with Save the Cat, all hit in the same places as they would with any other method, which to be fair, most outlining methods do. Now, obviously, Acts 1, 2 and 3 are the beginning, the middle and the end of the novel. Each block within these acts has a different goal to achieve in order to set the story up. You've got character introductions, plot twists, setting up or reacting to the midpoint. And then within each of the 9 blocks, there are 3 chapters each. These chapters are more beats than actual chapters. I don't think you have to have 27 chapters in your novel, but it's just a way to help with pacing, to make sure that you have everything you need to include in your book. So it's 1, very detailed, which I think will help me out a lot. 2, it's not too detailed to the point where I'm going to get overwhelmed with too much stuff to do. And 3, it's a very easy thing to follow. Now with Abingdon 2, I do have sort of a general plot in mind for the story, which is always a good thing. The issue I have with Abingdon 2 is that the plot is all over the place a little bit. I have a subplot, I have another subplot, I have the main plot, and I sort of need to puzzle all of these together to sort of form a cohesive plot where one affects the other, etc, etc. I've also got a timeline issue that I need to try and sort out. It's the second in a 5-part series, and this second book is where Hazel, who's our protagonist, she's learning magic for the first time. But the way the magic system is set out, there are 8 different versions of magic she needs to learn the basics of before she chooses which one she wants to do at the end of the book. It's a very long time, timeline-wise, to learn all of these different threads of magic. So whereas the first book took place over like 2 weeks, this second book needs to take place over like 8 months, which it's not like it's not doable. I mean, Harry Potter does it and he does it really well, but I sort of need to figure out how I'm going to split up this book and outline it to cover 8 months worth of plot, bearing in mind the second half of Act 2 and Act 3 take place in a very short time span. So really Acts 1 and the first half-ish of Act 2 need to take place over 8 months. And then the last part of the book is going to be like a few days. That's what I need to figure out, try and do that cohesively, which it can be done. It can be done. But then also all of these plot points that I have going on need to stretch over that amount of time as well, which is going to be a little bit more difficult. But that's the way I think it needs to be done. That's the way I'm going to do it anyway. And if I write it and it doesn't work that way, I'll figure something else out in order for her to learn all the magic, but we'll get it sorted. We'll get it sorted. I have everything already set up. We're going to go over to my Scrivener now. I don't know why I pointed, I've got to move the camera. So I have already set up a blog post that Katytastic did a few years ago now, where she describes her method with diagrams and in more detail. This is going to be easier for me to look at and refer to rather than her YouTube video where she explains it, but I'm going to link both in the description box below if you want to check it out. I have my Abingdon 2 notes here. This is everything that I have been doing for the outline already, things that I need, things that I want, etc, etc. Hasn't helped me lots, but we'll see how it goes. And here we have my Scrivener file already set up for the 3-act 9-block 27 chapter method. So if we take a closer look here, we've got at the side here, we've got Act 1, Act 2 and Act 3. All of the 27 chapters are already in here and named with what they need to be. Now, I know Katytastic sometimes puts each of the 3 chapters into its own block folder within the Act 1 folder. I didn't do that because that's just too much for me. I color coded everything instead. So Introduction, Inciting Incident, Fallout is part of block 1. They are the first 3 chapters. They are yellow. Reaction, Rebel, Action and Consequence are red. That is block 2. Pressure, Plot Twist, Push, that is orange. That is all block 3. So I can clearly see from my little overview what's block 1, what's block 2, what's block 3. Then obviously the same with Act 2 and again with Act 3. Okay, so with this method, we have our 3 different acts, we have our 3 different blocks within each of the acts, and then we have each of our 3 different chapters. So Act 1, Block 1 focuses on the introductions and the inciting incident. Block 2 focuses on the reaction, the action and the consequence from said inciting incident. And then Block 3 focuses on the plot twist and then the break into Act 2. Act 2, Block 4 focuses on fun and games and the old juxtaposition from the new life in the new world to the old life in the old world. Block 5 focuses on the midpoint and the reversal from the midpoint, and then Block 6 focuses on trials and dedication to completing whatever it is that they need to complete. Act 3, Block 7 focuses on the plot twist or the darkest moment. Block 8 focuses on the power within and converge. And Block 9 is battle, climax and resolution. So I'm going to be using a combination of all of the random notes I have in my Abingdon 2 Google Drive and the 3-act 9-block 27 chapter method to sort of muddle together how this plot is supposed to go. That is my goal for the day. If I can dig a little deeper and maybe color code things into different scenes that I want within the novel, because I'm feeling I want to write things scene by scene for Abingdon 2, which means I can revise things scene by scene in Abingdon 2. Which means I don't have to write in chronological order. For Abingdon 2, I can just do it scene by scene, and if I feel like writing a different scene than I need to, then I can do so. So let's get started. Okay, so I've just input all of the plot points in the places where I know these certain plot points go. I've got the climax, I've got a few things in Act 2, I've got the midpoint in there, the reversal and the consequence of the midpoint. I've got the dedication, which is what I want to lead into Act 3. I've got the inciting incident. That's all I've got. Why have I got such a lack of plot? I know the problem I'm having. The problem I'm having is that the plot, which is she needs to find a way to fix the foundations of Abingdon House, she can't do anything in regards to that until she does something else first. And that's going to take all of Act 1 and most of Act 2 to do. So while Fix Abingdon House is my main plot, part of that main plot is going to be Hazel's frustration that she can't complete or act upon the issues for the main plot because of the thing that's stopping her that she needs to do first. So everything else in Act 1 and Act 2, things like, they can't really be 100% related to the main plot because they're not at that time yet. So now I sort of need to figure out which plot points or subplots, I should say, need to start in what place, and then maybe a consequence could be from that subplot or things like that, which is a bit weird when I think about it. And it's like, where do I put all of these magic learning lessons? Like, it's not a problem with the outlining method, it's a problem with the type of story I'm trying to tell. But all of the chapters and all of the blocks are very specific to the main plot point, and I don't have one. I don't have one. So that's my issue at the moment. So I think I'm gonna have, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now. This is the issue. I'll figure it out. I just need to decide whereabouts within these blocks things can happen, even if they are not directly related to the block itself. And then once I've done that and I've put everything that I want to into the novel into a place, I can start figuring out how to link the main plot throughout it in a way that makes sense for the way that I want to tell the story. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so if chapter 1 is introduction, so we need an introduction then to Hazel's life 6 months after she has become the head of Abingdon House. So we need to see Hazel at work, perhaps. This is how simple I'm going to get. We need to see Hazel at work.
We need to reintroduce her friends and her family. Okay.
The introduction done.
Then the inciting incident happens.
Do I want that to be the inciting incident? No. The inciting incident doesn't have to be big. The inciting incident can be something that kicks off the story. I don't know, the thing I've just written down for the inciting incident feels like it should be somewhere later. Feels like a bit, it's getting too serious too fast to then meander for 6 months about it. So I think the inciting incident should be this. Spoilers. The thing I had for the inciting incident can be a little bit later. That could be in block 3 for the plot twist, which is where things get worse. So, okay. Talking about it is helping. Never underestimate talking to yourself when you're trying to figure stuff out. It works wonders. Okay. Okay, I still don't know where to put everything else though. I'm stuck again. Okay, so let's head into Act 2. Let's head into New World. Hazel hasn't really got a new world. She is currently in her new world from book 1. But there needs to be, I think, a bigger difference between how she's living her life in Act 1 for the past 6 months to how she's living her life now for Act 2, which is more taking on more serious things in regards to being the head of this magical house. So this is where I could introduce one of the subplots, which is just like a dispute between werewolves and shapeshifters, which is causing havoc. But because it's in Abingdon House's sort of territory within the city, it is up to Hazel and Abingdon House to fix the issue before it becomes like a full-on war between these two factions. So this is where we can be introduced to, okay, okay, I like it. Trials can then be that, spoilers, can't spell shapeshifters. Can't spell shapeshifters. Okay, I spelled shapeshifters this time. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking to the camera now. I'm gonna keep talking to myself, but focus on this. So I will see you in a little bit once I have spoken my way through my issue. Okay, I have Act 1, I have Act 2, don't have Act 3. The reason I don't have Act 3 is because while I know what happens in Act 3, I don't know what happens within Act 3. So, which doesn't make much sense at all, but this is the first part of how they're going to solve the foundational issue at Abingdon House. The events that occur while they're trying to fix the problem, I don't quite know what those are going to be yet. And I haven't even written them in my notes either, which isn't very helpful. Clearly I haven't plotted that far yet, which is, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. But what am I going to do about it except try and figure it out now what I need to do? The actual method itself, once I started talking to myself about it, was actually a lot easier to figure out what I wanted to happen and where. I suppose a lot of the plot is going to be more of character development for Hazel in regards to standing up for herself and being her own person, and learning to, you know, ask for help, or knowing that just because she can't handle certain things doesn't mean that she's not good enough. Relying on, you know, things like that. And obviously this is then the first step into the rest of the series and the main overarching plot, which will happen in the rest of the series. But we have things in place, we have our subplots in place. I've picked certain chapters within certain blocks to focus more on the main plot. So for instance, block 5, where we focus on the midpoint, which is very much integrated within the main plot. All of those focus on the main plot. The build-up focuses on the main plot, midpoint does, obviously reversal does. Block 6 has a mix of subplot and main plot to sort of ramp up the tension and, you know, Hazel's personal pressure that she is facing with everything, then going into the third act, which is resolving the main act issue. In Act 1, we've got the inciting incident and the fallout focusing on the main plot. We've got block 3, which is the pressure, which is focusing on a subplot, because we want to add to the stress and pressure of Hazel, which will then lead her to feeling the way that she feels and feeling the things that she feels, which ultimately leads her to all of her decisions and actions later on in the book regarding the main plot, and then the consequences to those, which add to the pressure of everything else, which adds to the nice big circle of pressure I've got going on. So that is how I figured it out, and that is how I am taking all of these different blocks in order to push everything forward. I'm just going to push it all onto Hazel. The more she has to deal with, the more she's going to snap, the more she's going to not think clearly, the more she's going to be rash in trying to fix this issue. In more ways things are going to go wrong, and it's all going to build up and build up until she gets to that point in the climax. So now that I've reached the point where she's figured out the issue that she needs to figure out in order to go forth and try and fix the foundations. It's such a weird way of putting it without giving anything away. Unfortunately, she has to go to a place in order to fix Abingdon House. She can't get to a place until she earns the trust of something that is guarding that place. At the end of Act 2, within dedication, the chapter, she earns the trust of this guardian, and she has access to this place she needs to go to now to fix the issue. Now I need to figure out how she's going to fix the issue. What happens in this place? I have the climax and I have the resolution. I know how the book's going to end. I know what Hazel needs to do, and I know what happens in order for her to fix the problem. Now I just need a couple of events. I need a plot twist, I need the darkest moment, I need her power within, her action rally, all of that in this one place. So I need to sort of think to myself what this place is and what is the magic of this place, and what type of things can this place put in front of Hazel to stop her achieving what she wants to achieve. And is it even this place that is stopping her from achieving this thing, or is it an outside force that is stopping Hazel from achieving this thing? Like, that's what I need to decide now. So I'm going to make some more tea. I'm going to get myself some breakfast because I haven't done that yet, and then I think I need to do some free writing to figure this out, and then we shall continue. We are done. It's a lot more basic than I thought it was going to be, and I don't know why I thought it wouldn't be this basic, doing just the general blocks and the general 27 chapters within it, because it is a very simple basic thing. Obviously there are a lot more things that I have plot wise that I haven't written down specifically in regards to all of the different acts and the different plots. This focuses on the main points within those acts, and obviously I have to fill in the details, which should be okay. I mean, I've got everything on there after some very careful free writing and thinking about everything that I needed to think about. I think the whole revelation that everything that happens is putting more pressure onto Hazel, which causes all the issues in the first place. That sort of helped me out a lot, trying to figure out what needed to go where. There's still a lot that I need to put into Act 1 in regards to the magic learning, and the same with Act 2. I have sort of figured out the timeline as well in regards to all three of the different acts, because this needs to span from January until August. I need to somehow fit everything except for August into Act 1 and Act 2, which is a very difficult thing to do. I've got January, February. I'm focusing on January, February and March in Act 1, April, May, June, July in Act 2, and then August, which is when everything goes down and the finale happens, is a few days in August for Act 3. So now that I have gone through and I have written down events that happen in each of the blocks, in each of the 27 chapters, I can now go back through and figure out at what point in the plot I want her to have her introduction to sigils, to witches, to wizards, to warlocks, etc, etc, etc. And that shouldn't be too difficult. I think the point I need to go from here now is, do I want to write this as 27 chapters, or do I want to split these 27 chapters now into different scenes or into more than one chapter each? I think I might need to figure that out. I mean, writing all of these as chapters for a 0 draft isn't the worst thing in the world. 27 chapters, if I do 2,000 words each, that'll get me around 54,000 words. And my goal for CampNaNoWriMo is to do 50,000 words. So for a first draft, for a middle grade, 54,000 words is a very good word count to start off with. Will it completely ignore the fact that Abingdon 1 started off at 46,000 words and I'm currently almost at 60,000 and I'm not finished with the story yet. There will be a lot that I'm going to need to add into revisions if I follow that same path with Abingdon 2. But yeah, having each as a 2,000 word chapter at least isn't the worst thing in the world, and that gives us a good 27 chapters to work with. I could also, if I wanted to, push it to 2,500 words per chapter. That will give me a word count of around 67,000, which again, for a middle grade, for a fantasy middle grade, for a magical realism middle grade, for a sequel, is also not that bad. But we've got our base, we have our outline done and dusted. While it didn't quite work how I imagined it would for this specific novel, I have to take into account that this is a sequel. It is going to have a slightly different setup than a first novel in a world where there is a clear cut between Act 1 and Act 2, where there is a true old world and new world. But I did rather enjoy Katytastic's outlining method. It is very simple to do, and it is very easy to, once you think of everything, fit everything where it is that you need to fit them based on what type of novel it is that you are going for. Definitely going to be using it again with my YA paranormal fantasy, which I need to start properly outlining soon. I don't know when I'm going to write it, but as a beginning and actually sorting out the main plot and its beats for Abingdon 2, it worked really well, and I am now at a stage where I feel I can properly outline this novel, which I wasn't at before and I couldn't get to before. So yay. We're at a starting point. I'm so happy. Like I said before, the blog post that I used and Katytastic's outlining video that I used are linked down in the description box below if you want to give this a try. I highly recommend you do. Let me know down in the comments below what is one of your most favourite ways of outlining your own novels, and I will see you all in my next video. Good thoughts and happy writing.